Julia, can you say something?
Yes, absolutely. I am testing.
Is it switched on?
It's on. It's on. It's on. I'm changing it. Yeah. It was actually on like a couple of minutes ago because I tapped and I could hear it.
No.
Can you hear me better? But I'm loud enough. Everyone can hear me here. Just for the sake of recording, I guess. Is it any better?
Okay, wait a minute. Again.
I am trying. I'm trying. Yes. Exactly. I think.
Okay.
It's going well. Yes.
Okay, we have it here, and let's do the presentations here first.
Yes.
And then we will try with the virtual speakers because it complicates life.
Okay, so first we go the in-person ones and then we go to the online ones. First in-person. Okay, perfect. Then here, you're second. All right. All right. Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us towards the end of second week. Many of us have left. Some of us are exhausted, but still, the champions are here, still energetic. So thanks so much for joining us on a panel titled Rethink Action, Leveraging Digital Technologies for Climate Actions, Co-Creation Strategies, and Monitoring in Cities. I'm Moria Saleh, Head of Urban Research, Innovation and Development Department at ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, and the co-chair of Research and Innovation at Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. Today, we have a wonderful lineup of panelists, lots of wealth of knowledge here that we're going to have a sort of a roundtable fireside chat conversation about the digitalization and climate. And we'll learn from our panelists about the type of work they have been doing recently. So obviously we all are aware that digitalization is changing our life, the way we greet on a daily basis. Many of the technologies and digital platforms and solutions that we are using, Google's, Microsoft's, Bolt's, Uber, you name it, they didn't exist 30 years ago, right? So technologies are exponentially changing our lives. And now we are at the stage that more and more stakeholders, cities, international organizations, NGOs, private sector are using digital technologies, particularly the driving forces of the fourth industrial revolution, AI, blockchain, Internet of Things, machine learning, deep learning, you name it, for the benefits of our global goals and to address the global challenges, chief among them climate. So without any further ado, I would like to start with our first speaker, Zunke Kraft, the Chief Climate Risk Strategist of the United Nations University, the EHS institutions, but also the Executive Director of Munich Climate Insurance Initiative. Zunke, thanks so much, first and foremost, for accepting the invitation, being with us in such a busy day. And we are aware that United Nations University, hand in hand with your partners, including the UNFCCC, held an AI, Bonn AI and Climate Conference just a few months ago. And I know that was an expert meeting that you convened to explore the interface of AI and climate. So it would be appreciated if you could share some of the insights from the discussions there on how AI is currently and can potentially support climate action on the ground, and what cities can take from the insights coming from that convening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you might not know, but actually since last year's COP, the UNFCCC also has a mandate to work on climate action and AI. It's one of the technology decisions. And it's to looking at the opportunities, but also the risk of artificial intelligence technologies, especially in the context of least developed countries, developing countries actually on and it was this new mandate, I say, on the UNFCCC but also generally the feeling that artificial intelligence technology really is right now the talk is hard. And bringing together the climate sphere, and that's what my institute is focusing on, with the AI community really was the goal of that meeting. It was an officially mandated event as part of the UNFCCC Technology Executive Committee, and it convened decision makers, meaning technical focal points in the countries that are working on technology transfer. It convened UN agencies, it convened the big tech companies, and also other experts and civil society organizations. And we organized more than 20 sessions, one also on Durban, so in the frame of this event today. And we convened it with a perspective of showcasing what are the solutions, what are the innovations in the space, and also one like upscale in the future. What are some of the governance challenges? Also noting that at the international level, AI governance is an emerging field, and there's, as I said, the new mandate for the UNFCCC at the same time. And lastly, of course, also AI technology has the potential to change the trajectory in how we use resources. So there's a question around the footprint of AI technologies moving forward and how green they are. So maybe focusing on some of the innovation takeaways, I would say, that we discussed at the event. So, I mean, it's quite clear that AI technology, and there are like several, this is just the umbrella term, right? There are like several technologies that fall into that, like, for example, machine learning, neural networks, deep learning approaches. And they do have like key capabilities and use cases in climate action. I mean, the way on how we look at data, for example, is changing, automating large-scale monitoring, having new opportunities to enable optimization. We were talking about predictive models. We are talking about digital twins. That is also very helpful in the urban space to do realistic simulations of the real world. These are really exciting opportunities, and they can also lead to new scientific discoveries. They also have the potential to supercharge climate action at the same time. So there's a big potential. We also discussed that many of the solutions, however, if you look at the specific use cases and you discuss on what's out there in the market, or what are some of the innovative projects, then they're very much concentrated in those countries that are also developing the technologies themselves. So we do have a lag, we do have a digital divide when it comes to the employment of these new tools, especially vis-a-vis the global south, especially vis-a-vis including social and indigenous local knowledges. We were discussing with like some of the big tech companies. As I said, we have them all there. And they are increasingly dedicating capacities to advance public good research. And there were like examples on predictive flood modeling, for example, which really changed also the how this modeling is done. However, it relies on publicly available data sets. So we were also discussing what can be the environment under which these new AI partnerships really can take place. Another aspect I want to say is that with AI, we always think like big AI, right? But we should also say small AI is also beautiful. If we talk about, for example, edge AI, right? It's like locally created codes that actually focus on like a specific societal challenge. And I think this is also very much behind when we talk about AI. We have a bit of a reframing to do, I think, at the international level, because we really think always in terms of the big tech companies when we talk about AI. AI is not a new thing. It has been around for some time, and there are many people in the space that are working. Then I also want to say, in a way, innovation for me is the implementation of creativity. That's what it is about. And for that, you need partnerships. And so we were discussing what could be some of these partnerships. We realized, for example, there are now more and more innovation calls, also dedicated to local and indigenous knowledge to involve these type of actors. So this is one way. We were also talking about the governance sphere. How can actually local ecosystems be created at the interface of climate action and also AI? And so this is like one of the next question. And also, I think, I have Andrea here, and she led the conversation in the urban session. We also discussed this in the urban space. How can these innovation partnerships look like, and the need to create like local urban coalitions that actually bring together tech providers, scientists, but also like the knowledge of online providers to create these partnerships. This is only one snapshot of one of the debates. Of course, I can also further dwell on some of the other topics discussed.
Lovely, thank you so much, Sönke. I think I really appreciate that you have tied this conversation to specific technologies such as digital twins, as you mentioned, and their potential in cities. Also, the distinction between small and big AI. And I agree that there is a reframing to do to ensure that we're not talking about AI as a new concept, as you just mentioned, but also like how we leverage it and how it can be complemented by the policy innovation, for example, for the type of governance that we need to enable it and to not just reinvent the wheel, but be applied to our urban challenges. And I really like your point about innovation. That's how to implement creativity, and obviously AI and all the type of technologies are tools, and they are not ends, right? They are just means to an end. I think linked to this conversation and insights that Sönke shared, we'll move to the second panelist, Peter Oxen from WIPO Green. Thanks so much, Peter, for being with us today. WIPO Green is an initiative by World Intellectual Property Organization that accelerates the deployment of technologies for climate action and type of climate technologies, if you wish. And it's an online platform, as far as I understand, for technology exchange that supports global efforts by connecting providers and seekers, or we say demand owners and solution providers in our language, for environmental friendly technology. So Peter, it would be helpful to learn a little bit about the WIPO Green, but also about the book that you launched yesterday, but also what WIPO Green and WIPO in general are doing in terms of facilitating the access of demand owners in cities in terms of technologies that can capacitate and empower cities for climate action. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, yes, I'm Peter Oxen. I'm from, maybe you can take the next slide. I'm from World Intellectual Property Organization. And I will first start off with saying that when we talk about innovation and technology, so we have heard here from the previous speaker how there's so much going on in AI. But there's also a lot going on in all kinds of things. Now, climate change is a little bit special in the way that it's not like the COVID, where we have 5 or 6 vaccines that kind of solves the problem. That's not the case of climate change. In climate change, it goes into all sectors, and therefore we need technologies from thousands of technologies for all kinds of sectors, all pulling in the right direction. I think this is quite different from many other areas. We don't have a game-changing solution. We don't have the silver bullet. We don't have the solution, and we'll never get it from technology anyway. But we do have a lot of very, very good solutions out there already. And they can help us they can enable this deep transition or deep transformation that we also need in order to be able to respond to what's happening in the climate. So I'm from a World Intellectual Property Organization. We're based in Geneva. We're one of the 15 specialized agencies of the United Nations. And our mandate is basically to ensure that there is an efficient and a just intellectual property system in the world. So in order to do that, we manage about, right now, 24 treaties on how to respect and how to create or protect intellectual property around the world. It's all based on national legislation, so it's complicated. We got 192 member countries, and they don't agree much more than in any other of these international forums. So we've been there since 1967, based in Geneva, and I come from a very small unit called WIPO Green, where we don't work so much directly on intellectual property, but more try to show what innovation and technology can do for the global challenges. We focus on climate change and food security and the environment. So we're very much there to support, to get innovation out into the field. And through that, we support the innovation ecosystem and we support technology transfer. And in their IP, of course, intellectual property rights are crucial. So that's really what our aim is. Next slide, please. I think you jump one, go back one. Go back. Hang on.
Another one back.
One back, yeah. No, next one then, sorry. Yes, right. The colors is different. So we are as you said, we are a matchmaking platform, we are a digital platform. We actually won an award at the SDG Summit last year at New York for being a game-changing digital solution for climate change technologies. We're very proud of that. But other than that, we have various assets that we combine in this platform. And one of them is our database. I hope I'll have time to mention that a little bit later on. And then we do various matchmaking projects in the field, on the ground. It's not matchmaking event stuff like that. It's actually we go into the field, we find individual farmers, household, communities, companies who has a specific challenge that they need to find a solution for, and we help them to find the best solution and get that into the field. And we do that in 8 countries at the moment, quite a lot in Latin America. Now, it was mentioned we launched the Green Technology Book. It's here. We just launched it yesterday, the 3rd edition. We started it 3 years ago. The first edition was on climate change adaptation, and the next on climate change mitigation. And this year, we thought we would go into the energy solutions because it's a huge field. Now, I have left over there on the table, so you're welcome to serve yourself afterwards. And basically what this is of course, it's an analysis of what is happening in terms of various technology fields, but there are many publications out there talking about what technology can do in general. So we go a little bit further and we actually show what technologies are available, what can actually be found. So it's a mixture between technology area, trends analysis and stuff, and then it is a catalog for what is actually there. And that concept has been quite popular so far, and we've had 1.4 million unique visitors and 77,000 downloads of the whole book, because it's a digital first publication, right? Yeah, it's pretty good, and mostly from developing countries, India particularly, but very good spread all over the place. And I think probably that's because the first edition was on adaptation, which is really important. And unfortunately, I have to save them for another event tomorrow, but the adaptation edition was for me actually one of the most interesting because there hasn't been that much work done, and it's really complex because this is so broad. It basically touches on all parts of society. But anyway, in this book, you will see there's a chapter on cities in Italy, and there are loads of digital solutions in it. I'll show you some examples of what is in relation to cities specifically. So 3 editions, direct access, mobile phones, of course, work also. Most of our readers actually come on from mobile phones. So you can just go on there and download them or read them online. If you want, you can also buy a paper copy on Amazon or whatever, but I don't think many people do that because they can download it for free. So anyway, this links to our database, and there we have a special collection where we show all the technologies in the book. There are only around 200, 250 technologies in the book. But then we have many more on the website and on the database. We have more than 1,000 there, and in the database behind that we have 130,000 solutions. But most of those are patent applications, so they're not really solutions. But then we have 5,000 uploads from companies, and those are real solutions that are available up there. Anyway, next slide, please. Yes. So here I've taken just a screenshot of some of the areas that are relevant for cities here. So this is from the adaptation edition. And I think I'm just going to stand up so I can see it better. So, for example, what we do is we divide the technologies we find into proven, frontier, and horizon. So, proven means that stuff that's already there, it's available, it's been around for a while, it really works. It's, you know, just go and use it. And then we got frontiers, which are technologies that are available, they're on the market, but they're new, so they're not so well tested. And then we got horizon, which is things that are not quite on the market yet, but which are very close to being there. So we're not looking into things that might come in 5-10 years. It's really what is on called TRL 9 or something, very, very close to be ready on the market. Because we want it to be really something that is action oriented. So we're not interested in, you know, futures, demos and whatever. But here, when you look into urban planning, for example, what this is about, so there's a lot that can be done in relation to adaptation. That's a lot about flood protection. There's a lot about protection against heat and against cold. So there's a lot of technologies on how, in planning, you can actually improve your planning from the outset and integrate nature-based solutions like storage areas where you have flooding, so you don't need to have so much raining and all these kind of things. So there are loads of technologies in there, and there's a lot of digital technologies also in relation to planning and collecting information to be able to make the proper planning for that. If you go into infrastructure and services, so in adaptation, that's a lot about increasing the resilience of it, making it withstand a very large effects of you know, new extreme weather events that comes in all the time. So, and it's also, whoops, it's a little fast there. Can you go back to the other one? Yeah, so in buildings also, in adaptation, so that's also a matter of protecting against heat. So we have ventilated facades, you have various things that can help you to make it more actually easy to protect against that. And then we have early warning systems, and this is also digital solutions, of course. So that's really important for cities to be able to know what's coming and prepare for it. But also we have a lot of technologies here that wireless emergency alerts. So people have smartphones all over the place in cities, right? So meaning they're also observants of what is happening around in the city, can see what's coming, and they can report it. So there's several platforms and mobile device-based solutions that are coming up. Next one, please. Going into mitigation, we got a lot, of course, that's about, of course, bringing down emissions. So there we have a lot about heating and cooling, which are some of the really big consumers in there. Next one, please. We have smart mobility, and of course, that's a lot about electric vehicles, that's pretty obvious. But again, there's also a lot about managing traffic, work more efficiently. And this is where also digital solutions comes in, because that's really what they can do. And if one day we get the autonomous cars, well, then we actually have a really good chance of making it very efficient and much better than we do it today. We'll see when that comes. We don't have autonomous cars in there yet, because we'll see. I want to see it before I really believe it. Next one, please. Yes. So waste and recycling, again here, a lot of things that can be done. In terms of course, plastic recycling is important in terms of reducing emissions, but also methane emissions from waste, and also there's a lot of solutions as well. Next, please. Public spaces and infrastructure. So now we move into the latest edition where we look at energy sources. So there we look specifically in cities, we look at public spaces, so it's a lot about new energy efficient heating, there's a lot about that's what we have a lot here, heat recovery and heat management in public spaces. Next. Water utilities, of course, for cities, super important, and also there's a lot of energy efficiency that can be made. Simply installing new pumps, there are new pump technologies that are very, very efficient in terms of energy use. And just maintaining the right pressure in the network of water can actually save a lot of energy. And for that, there are loads of technology and also digital solutions. Monitors putting into connected to the internet, so you can all the time see where you need to go. Urban households, simple things like putting a solar panel on your balcony. There's a German company who is selling this at the moment, and I think there are others also. House management with technology, various technologies to reuse the heat from showers, and also to make sure that it's more energy efficient, use it less, and so on. And of course, heating and all that stuff. Next one, please. And then we looked particularly into supermarkets. It's something that hasn't been done so much, but those are actually, they're everywhere and all over the world, and they are huge consumers of energy. Why? Well, obviously, because they have to cool things down, right? And there's air conditioning. So also here, there's quite a number of technologies available. There's, for example, transcritical CO2 refrigeration, which is a new technology that is being used quite a number of places now, and which is much more energy efficient than the typical refrigerating technologies. And then, of course, there are various ways to isolate the glass panels and so on, but there are many more than that. Now, I said this linked up to our database, and this is also a free resource available on the internet. And we have these 5,000 companies who are uploaded already. And any company who has something that they want to show up there are free to upload to the database. There are no fees, there are no costs, there is no requirement for IP protection either. They don't need to have a patent. If they have, they can put in all the information they want on that. Once it's in the database, it gets matched against what we have, because you can also upload needs. The needs will be analyzed by AI and extract the keywords and matched against all that. So it's really a matchmaking platform. Next slide. Yeah. So this is what it looks like in the search. Yeah. Lots of filters and so on here. So when you see a technology in here, you've got two things down here. So first you've got the website. If you click on that one, next slide, please. Then you got directed to the website of the company. And if you click on the email down here, next slide, please, then you can contact the company directly. And this is not what we have in the database is not to show that this is the best. We don't go out and test it. We don't recommend this as being the best. But we show it as examples of what is out there, so that when you're in your area and you see, oh, this is something I could use, you could go out and see, can I find this in my place where I'm living? One more note on the database. So we are the UN. We cover 192 states, and it's for us it's very important that the database is inclusive. It means that we don't focus only on the most advanced, the most expensive, the most efficient technologies, the most investable technologies, and all that. We look at also the things that are much less expensive, much less efficient, much less fancy, much less expensive. I said that. It's also a very important factor, because we obviously, what works in Ouagadougou doesn't necessarily work in Geneva, and the other way around. So you really need all the technologies that are available that work in the local context. And we are specifically keen on trying to find the technologies that are developed locally. You see in the latest edition here, we actually managed to get quite a number of technologies from Africa in there, also developed and used in Africa. And yesterday when we launched it, we actually had 2 African companies showing some very advanced cook stove interpretations using IoT and being able to do a prepaid kind of system, so it's really easy to get into it without having to buy it upfront.
Thanks so much, Peter. Very, very useful. I think in general is very exciting for myself, and I really appreciate the perspective that you brought to the table, that we should not limit ourselves with the tunnel vision for AI, but also include other type of technologies that can help us address the multifaceted challenges we are facing within the cities and type of close the need solution gap. But talking about this series of green technology book, I really like the proven versus frontiers versus horizon type of category. And to me, this platform, the WIPO Green, is not only a platform to find the potential solutions, but also it facilitate the urgent need, to address the urgent need of case studies to demonstrate the application of potential solutions. And as Peter mentioned, none of them are necessarily recommended or as best practices, but we do need to test solutions to see which ones are applicable, which ones are feasible, and which ones draw the most benefits to the communities. And I think that's exactly where communities and networks like our network cities come into the game to really facilitate the application of these solutions where those cities have an appetite to apply those solutions. And I'm hoping that moving forward, we can collaborate to really take these solutions further, and before they become junky in the sense of, technology, we can really use and apply them in some context, and then hopefully look into scaling up those solutions that are really useful. So thanks a lot for sharing the wealth of knowledge, and I encourage everyone to download the books available online, or claim one hard copy that Peter generously brought to the table. I think speaking of that, I would like to showcase to all of you one platform. Miro, if you can go to our online speakers, our colleague David Corbett is willing to showcase us the RethinkAction platform, which is a platform developed based on these digital technologies. It's a new platform co-created hand in hand with some cities in Europe. So for six regions in different parts, from Eastern Europe to Northern economies to Southern Europe, in Italy and Portugal, hand in hand working with civil society, private sector, and different stakeholders to create a platform that facilitates digital negotiations around land use planning. And what I really like about this platform, that's an EU-funded platform with 13 partners around the table, is that this platform facilitates the type of decision making and co-creation that in conventional approaches we have limited space to do that. And it sets the geographical data and geospatial data coupled with the type of mitigation and adaptation solution, something that the group calls it LAMS catalog, to choose the best option for any city. And now it's in a phase that it's out, I think from the end of September, publicly available, but it's still in the phase of development through the course of next 12 months, so that the target 100 cities will use this platform. So I would like to yield the floor to my colleague David to walk us through this platform and tell us why it is valuable as one of the examples. David, thanks for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Poria, and yeah, hello to everyone. It's really great to be joining you, at least virtually, for this very important discussion. I'd also just like to thank Sönke and Peter for their insights and examples that they've shared so far. And this is really shaping into a very nuanced discussion and bringing a global perspective of solutions. And as you mentioned, Poria, as well, the challenges that we face in applying technology in cities, and how these are also very important from our perspective to find innovative ways to apply them to the challenges that we face. So as Poria mentioned, I would like to take this moment to share a bit about this Horizon-funded project that we're working on with 13 other consortium members across 6 case studies in Europe, which really brings together quite a few different aspects that we've been talking about in this session. So the RethinkAction project aims to develop a digital platform to facilitate evidence-based decision-making.
You can now.
Just confirm if you're able to hear me, Poria, sorry. Yeah, okay. And really it's to guide policy and digital negotiations around the crucial issue of land use. One unique aspect of this project, and one that we're very actively involved in as ICLE, is the co-creation angle, which is deeply embedded throughout its life cycle. So we've worked with local stakeholders from all 6 case studies, from the very beginning, scoping requirements and challenges, to now the exciting process of testing the platform and ensuring that it actually addresses their needs. So really, this platform is about data and action. And what we see is using essential climate variables to map vulnerabilities and risks and see how they affect from the local to regional and even global scales. And in addition, we've co-developed a land use adaptation and mitigation solution index, which Poria briefly mentioned. And these can be used in combination with this data visualization tool to assess potential policy action scenarios and the impact of solutions. So this combination is reflected through these screenshots of the platform that you'll hopefully see briefly on the screen. And you'll see that there's both a visualization of the geospatial data from the different case studies, as well as policy advice and the solution finding functions. So as Poria mentioned, this is an exciting combination that makes the platform get the most out of the local data that's available to guide decision making, and also to help citizens to understand their local climate context, and this supports accountability and more inclusive decision-making. As of the end of September this year, the platform's actually open to the public, so this is a really exciting stage for the project. As Poria mentioned, it's in its pilot phase at the moment, and it's not optimized for mobile at this stage. But I would encourage you to kind of save the QR code, save the link, and take a look at a later stage to engage with the platform, see what it's capable of, and also consider joining our end user community. Or we also have a curated collection of experts qualified to provide more detailed technical feedback on the platform through tailored workshops that we provide. So as I mentioned, it's a really exciting time to join our end user community for the project with the recent launch of the platform. And we're aiming to open the platform for feedback by end users through the series of upcoming workshops that will be taking place early next year. And we'll also be offering a webinar series in the future for cities and regions that are interested in replicating aspects of the platform in their own territories. So if you're interested in joining us for these next steps that we'll be taking together in the project, I would really encourage you to scan the QR code and become part of this dynamic community that we're building that's currently with over 100 really actively involved participants from across these 6 regions, including local government, businesses, civil society organizations. So it's a really rich and diverse conversation that's taking place in the co-creation of this platform. So yeah, it would be great to have you on board, and we look forward to engaging with you more in this project and building further on this crucial discussion about using technology to make better land use decisions. Thanks a lot for listening, and happy to hand back to Poria to continue the conversation on that side. Thanks, Poria.
The mic, because
Great. So I think I'm on screen, but I can't hear Poria. If you did an intro, I think the mic from the. I'm sorry, maybe I'm also speaking on top of you, but the mic from your part I think was disconnected. But thanks Poria and David for the invite. Always glad to be part of this conversation, especially on how we can leverage emerging technologies for climate change. In this case, more for cities from our side. I think I don't have control of my slides if that's you're showing from your side. But if we can go to the next one, I can talk. Yeah. So at Open Earth, we're a nonprofit and we work at the intersection of emerging technologies and climate change. We try to work alongside, and this is something you mentioned, Poria, right, of how we need to collaborate with the networks, the technology, and the government actors to drive action. And that's something we try to do in the way we're structured. So we work very collaboratively with UN, city networks, other tech players in order to drive change. We've been mostly focused on a couple of different verticals in the past, but now mostly focused on cities. And I'm going to talk about City Catalyst, which is our main platform in which we're trying to help cities go along their climate journey by leveraging some of this emerging tech. So if we can go to the next one, I'll give a quick intro onto our platform and what we're doing and how we're piloting with real cities to drive action for them. So we can go to the next slide there. Great. So City Catalyst, as I mentioned, it's a platform that helps cities manage climate data and action, right? We have modules related to GHG inventories, climate change risk assessments, prioritization of climate actions. And as I've mentioned, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. So we're building an integration engine that helps integrate to other solutions, right? So let's say RethinkAction could be a possible one. WIPO Green could be another connection. Other tools that exist, right? The way we see the landscape for cities or their climate journey, and this is also an adaptation of the GCC framework from ICLE, is that cities have a path where they need to go from analysis to action and to acceleration. There's a lot of different steps that they can take, and to be honest, cities are maybe one of the actors that have the most leverage but have the least bandwidth or solutions in order to drive forward in this path. So we work here with a couple of different initiatives that we have, right? In the analysis part, we work mostly on helping cities build GG inventories in an easy way. I'll go over afterwards into the different solutions we have in our modules of how we can help them, leveraging emerging tech like large language models, machine learning, just sometimes like basic digitalization. And in the analysis part, right, we have GG inventories, CCRAs. In the action part, we have a module that helps cities prioritize climate action based on their custom needs, based on their actions, then being able to build detailed implementation and finance plans to go from priorities to implementation, and then help them accelerate into making sure they are engaging with the right parts of their citizens, stakeholders, etc., but also with other cities and actors. So on the inventory part, right, we have a platform that's pretty fleshed out. We're testing it with more than 60 cities at the time. That helps cities build an inventory much faster than what they usually take traditionally, right? Building an inventory has a very long data collection times. It's very frustrating to process all the data. So we've built a couple of tools for that, right? First is ready-to-use data. So our tool has already integrated data that can be implemented into the inventory with just one click. The data is formatted for gPC. It's ready to use. It's very simple and very easy to review and validate if it's fit for that city. We have also, for cities that have their own activity data and want to go a bit more like an advanced user, we have builders that have, can we go back to the GGA one? Back if we can. Those are the other modules. I think we're going forward. But anyway, we have multiple methodologies that cities can use for more advanced users. So based on which methodology they want to use to estimate emissions, they can do that. We also have some AI agents we've developed for specific tasks. So the way we're tackling AI is going into specific tasks that AI can do. So we have a capacity building chatbot that knows everything that can be known about building a GG inventory. We have a data processing agent that you can throw, let's say, any Excel file that has raw data about activities related to emissions, and it transforms them into emissions values, etc. And then in other parts that we're doing, right? So as I said, this is not only for GGIs, but as well for CCRAs, right? We have a module that identifies the top risks for a city. It helps also draft like reports based on those risks to better understand them, which we know is super important for cities to be able to grasp some of these very technical things, especially if you think about cities that maybe are starting in this path. The tool also allows cities to do a qualitative resilience assessment, right? Sometimes the off-the-shelf assessment is not enough, right? And we know there's a lot of on-the-ground knowledge, either through land stewards, indigenous groups, other organizations that have been working on adaptation and resilience that can also add a lot of details there. So the tool allows to do that, and cities are able to get out a CCRA out of it. And the last part is, I was talking about the climate action prioritization module, right? Which sort of fits in these two outputs we get from a GG inventory and a CCRA, and matches it with the city context data. It matches it with the power mandates that a city might have, right? Which means what are the things cities can actually do, right? So slide is a bit, I haven't reached this part yet, but what it means is that sometimes cities don't have the power to, for example, change. For example, if railways are federal, right, the city might not be able to do anything to adopt any change there. So it's important to know what cities can actually do in order to think about what actions they can do. So that's something we're putting in our model and helps cities prioritize actions they can do. We're leveraging, in that case, an LLM agent that helps go from action priorities to action plans, right? So it understands from past actions that have been done. So, for example, solutions, for example, from a WIPO Green database. It understands funding opportunities that exist. It understands things that are there, and based on that, it can implement, let's say, an implementation plan, a finance plan, etc. And as you see, like, this path has a lot of different parts and moving puzzle pieces. That's not something we want to all build ourselves. So that's why we're building open APIs, standard APIs for people to be able to integrate and be able to share tools that already exist for cities to connect with other tool providers. Something I want to stress just before I finish is the importance of CHAMP, right? And how we can leverage CHAMP to make sure, things we're talking about in COP, things that countries are committing to, also comes down to the city level, which you think is the players that have the most leverage to enact action. So yeah, if anyone is working with cities, building tools for cities and interested in talking more, please look us up at Open Earth Foundation, and we're happy to share some more of our progress we're doing and some of the AI tooling we're building.
Thank you so much, Joaquin, for joining us and sharing what City Catalyst is planning to do. And I think we all can agree that it's not easy to build a tool. It needs a lot of resources, a lot of capacity, and obviously what you're doing is great. And looking forward to implementing this as we are collaborating on that in different cities, particularly under CHAMP. It's a very interesting initiative. So we are unfortunately coming to the end of our conversation. However, I would like to ask each of the panelists for 30 seconds of final remark, each of them. First and foremost, I would like to thank Miro, our champion in convening us. This is the Digital Innovation Pavilion, the third year in RAW that they are holding the front line of bringing innovation, digital innovation conversation to COP. So thanks so much for your leadership on IAAI and GLOCHA and the Digital Innovation Pavilion. But I think what came up here in this panel, and we can sort of think about so many other actors and partners, that they are doing something useful, but the partnership between different stakeholders, man, right? So I would like to start with you, Miro, to ask you, what do you think is needed once we leave this space and go back to our day-to-day work? What is really crucial to ensure that every piece of work that UNU, WIPO Green, Open Earth Foundation, and other partners in ICLEI are doing needs to be done? What needs to be done to ensure that we connect these dots? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kuria. It's such a pleasure having you, having ICLEI, WIPO, UNU University, Munich Institute with us. It's such an important topic, this local action and concrete digital solutions for climate action empowerment, and what our organization is working on. And where I see also a systemic contribution to the question that you've asked is, one is challenges mapping. We have developed a tool giving it to citizens, youth, whoever wants to be this citizen scientist, going in their neighborhoods, identifying challenges for the common good on the local and global level, and identifying action potentials, having a mechanism for the localization, identification, and specification of challenges, and then in the global challenges action registry, uniquely identifying the challenges, the objects, the stakeholders, the actions, and the impact. I believe that if we have this kind of system, which will help us to understand who is doing what, where, with what kind of action, deliver what kind of impact, then we will have really also the innovation system, multi-stakeholder climate action coordination and incentivization system that we will function as global community better in the light of the biggest global challenge that the world has ever seen, climate change. And yeah, this is somehow our main contribution, and to get it operationalized, we are going to have in Bonn at the Intersessional a workshop about localization of climate action. We are working also with the UN Geospatial Information Network. We have a One Map initiative where they are bringing together all the data from UN agencies, and they have hundreds of data layers, and we are invited to provide an additional citizen science data layer about these global challenges. And we believe that this localization of climate action will also help the NDC's reporting, that we will have more specific, more concrete ideas about what's happening in the countries around the world, and then space-specific data, which then can help also multi-level governance integration. If we know exactly where it is, then we know which public entity can contribute to solving and addressing a certain challenge and contributing to action and impact. Yeah, these are some of the systemic solutions that we're working on, and I hope that especially for the workshop in Bonn in June, and then also next year in Belém at COP30, when we will have again our digital innovation pavilion, this kind of topics, localization of climate action, the geospatial data and citizen science. This will be our key flagship initiatives, and looking forward to partnering with you on this.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Miro. You're such a connector, that connecting the dots, and we really appreciate that. And absolutely count us in for the workshop in June, and hopefully we can coordinate with our colleagues at the United Nations University as well to bring their also partners on board. Sönke, what are the next steps once we leave here until June?
For us, it's about connecting the local realities to the global processes. And there's an opening, I mean, on the AI side, and I was focusing on that topic. There's now an emerging AI governance framework, also as part of the Summit of the Future decision in September in New York. And there's going to be a biannual forum. There's going to be a scientific advisory also to the General Assembly on AI. And what we want to do is really connect this also to the climate case and make sure that there's a connection between the climate community, and I count also the city networks into that, to the emerging AI governance. And this is something we're going to focus on moving into next year and beyond.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Sönke. And I think we'll look forward to receiving communications on that front to see how best we can support that. Peter, your final words.
Thank you. So, yeah, where to start? I mean, there's so many things. So we are working a lot with technologies and trying to show how much is out there. Now, when you're talking about the digital world and what is happening there, and especially AI, it's just so fascinating at the time. So we see some of these new platforms coming up, presented here also, and that's obviously very, very good. But you can have the best platform in the world. You need to get the message out there and get it used, and that's a real challenge because there are many platforms. We have one platform also, right? And it's really difficult to spread the message that this is there because there are so many. There's so much happening, and that's partly because the digital revolution kind of makes it easy to make some of these things and put it together. And what I'm looking very much into right now, because with AI coming up, we integrated AI functionality in our database 4 years ago, and now we can see we can do things that we couldn't even think about at that time. So I'm really starting to think about whether actually a database like ours makes sense at all when we go forward with new AI. Maybe we don't need to have it like that. Maybe the AI can manage the whole internet as one big database instead. But it's something to be seen. But there's some new possibilities coming up, and I'm looking very much closely into right now how we can harvest that directly in our database. And I wouldn't be surprised that in 5, 7, 6 years time, that we don't really need it anymore, because it can be replaced by much more efficient ways of retrieving the information that we need. And it could be the same with planning tools and all that. if the AIs really can do what it looks like they will be able to do very soon, well then it might be quite a game changer for many of these ways that we actually work on these things.
Thanks so much, Peter. And I think it brings me to my final words. I think like AI is absolutely like changing the way we are handling different things. But at the end of the day, personally, I believe there's always a need for human supervision on that. When it comes to this type of collaboration with cities and technologies, you always need intermediary organization, boundary organization to filter the right solutions, technological solutions, taking into account the context, right? Like the digital literacy in Africa is very different from Nordic economies. And I think like what matters at the end of the day is innovation, and innovation starts with experimentation and exploration. And as I mentioned, I go back to that point that each of us are doing one thing, but it's helpful to really explore different activities. You're writing that book, next edition, like invite United Nations University to see what would be their sort of contribution to that. Like what Glocha is doing in June, what these partners can bring to the table, or what we can do together to bring those solutions to city to see if some of them would work. So I want with this to thank all of you for your attention, and to our panelists for joining this conversation. And I'm hoping that this conversation is not the end game, but rather starting further and deeper collaboration down the line, so that next year in Berlin, we would have a more meaningful conversation with some examples of collaboration on this front. Thank you.